Hi, my name is Robert Wright, and my technical briefing is on the JavaScript framework AngularJS. This framework was first released to the public in 2010 and is currently being maintained by Google. I've thrown together a simple web project to highlight what I think are some of the most useful aspects of Angular. So, the first thing I'm going to discuss is the idea of Angular directives. So directives are sort of like HTML attributes. So start with the first one, which I think is the simplest and arguably one of the most useful, ngModel. By assigning ngModel value, it dynamically links the data input into that field. So for example, the ngModel of this input field is home.person.firstname. Home.person references an object I've created in the controller, vm.person. So by assigning the ngModel of this input home.person.firstname, the text entered into this input field becomes mapped to the object vm.person, and it creates the attribute first name for that person object. So an example of that on this page, type in the first name here, and you'll see the next part I was going to talk about next, the dynamic data binding. So down here we have an h3 tag using the syntax of two sets of curly braces and then putting in the ngModel. You can dynamically display any data that's bound to that ngModel. So anything I type in here updates down here. It's almost like a little pointer. The next thing I'd like to talk about is another directive called ngIf. So this is kind of a conditional statement. So if everything after the equal sign in ngIf is true, or everything within the quotation marks, then that HTML element gets shown. So here's an example. I've got some just basic input validation. So field is required, and course, which has a mapping to a ng pattern, which is a regular expression pattern I'll talk about in a second. So the first name, I've just said that it's required. So because these are null or undefined, by typing anything in here, you'll get rid of the error. So there you go, and now there's no more error because those are technically valid. With the course, I've actually done something a little more complicated. I've got a ng pattern. So this is a pattern matching directive. You can pass in any regular expression, and to be valid, the input has to match that regular expression. So for this one, I've assigned it a pattern that matches a course name, so like CSCI 1301, and it fits. Limited the input to 8, so you can't put anything other than the valid length. And all that error checking is only shown once they've hit the submit button. Next thing I'd like to talk about is a directive called ngRepeat. This is also one of my favorite directives to use at work. So in my controller, I've got a object which contains an array of color objects. So here I've got a div and then the ngRepeat directive, color, and home.colors.colors. So home.colors references the vm.colors object over here, and then it will repeat each of the colors within vm.colors. So now I've got listing each of the colors: red, white, or black, white, red, blue, yellow, and green. Another cool thing I can do here is using the two-way data binding, I can actually assign a style. It will grab the hex code of a color right here. So we've got object code.hex, and we'll actually add the color associated with that color to the text. So I've got black, white, red, blue, yellow, and green. You can't really see the white. One last thing I'd like to talk about is a custom directive. So as you'll see here, I've got a custom directive that I've written. It's very simple. So it is a template that takes the syntax my-template and then has your first name linked to the input field up here, and then last name linked to that second input field. And these can be called in your HTML either by an actual custom HTML tag, my-template, there you go, or by assigning an attribute to any other HTML tag, such as a div. So there's a my-template directive. So this first name and last name should appear twice now. And there you go. Both of them are bound to these input fields. So these are just a few of the very powerful tools within Angular. The custom directives are also very cool. The custom directives allow you to essentially have an entire web page of just very small tags like this. So anything you would ever use, so you'd have layered divs with rows and columns that you just have a simple directive like that for. So you don't have to have all of these divs everywhere. You could have one for labels, even have ones for more complicated things like a date picker. And these are some of the things that I think are highlights of Angular. Thanks for watching.